Every day's a celebration.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala!
All right, 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I have a memory of an old home movie that my grandfather made when I was a child, and it was in the 60s, and he had this movie camera. Of course, no sound back in those days. 8 millimeter, you know the whole routine. And the lights on that camera were so bright. So the image I have in my brain because of our next conversation we're about to have is in the kitchen, and I can see my grandmother and my mother and all of the ladies in this video are wearing aprons. It really shows shows the sign of the times, right?
Yes.
The men stayed out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Unless you were like a 7-year-old man, then you were allowed in there. And I was one of those 7-year-old little men, and squinting, looking into the camera, trying to be goofy as my mother and grandmother were trying to make probably Thanksgiving. Who knows what they were making? Something of that line. Mother's Day is coming up, and we probably are all remembering fond memories of our moms, hopefully. Peter Gethers is on the phone. This guy's got a lot of great credentials. He's a film and TV producer, a playwright, a screenwriter, a book editor, the co-creator and co-producer of the hit off-Broadway play called Old Jews Telling Jokes, which, let's say, I would call that the Johnny Carson Tonight Show.
Yeah, right.
Nowadays, I would call that Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Anyway, he's got a book. It's called My Mother's Kitchen, Breakfast, Lunch, Dinner, and the Meaning of Life. Touching and funny at the same time. Peter Gethers, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. What a great intro. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Where are you calling from?
My office in Manhattan, in New York City.
In Manhattan.
Nice.
Yeah, miss New York. So how is New York today? Looking good?
Actually, sunny and lovely.
So where did you...
To me, New York always looks good to me, though, I have to say.
Yeah. Did you ever move away from New York? Have you ever moved away?
I did. I actually, when I was 10 or 11, my parents whisked me away to Los Angeles, which I grew up there until after college, and the first day I could, I hightailed it back to New York.
Is that right?
I've lived in London a little bit. I've lived in France a little bit. So I've lived other places, but I get the shakes if I'm away from New York City for too long.
Do Billy Joel songs creep into your head? This is what happens to me. It happened just this morning. The New York State of Mind was in my head this morning for some reason. Don't know why.
I actually think about that all the time.
So tell me about the book. Tell me about your mom. Tell me about your mom's kitchen.
Well, it's sort of what you started to say is, food is a great bridge both to the past but also to the present and between people. And my mom was a very important person in the food world. It happened roundaboutly. She got a job in a restaurant. It was her first job ever at the age of 53. She was the lowest of the low because she wanted to learn how to be a good French cook. And the restaurant, which was in Los Angeles, had a baby chef whose name was Wolfgang Puck. Oh. And she wound up being a second mom to Wolf and mentoring and really being a mother to a whole generation of soon-to-be famous chefs like Wolf, like Nancy Silverton, John Waxman, Dan Barber, people like that, all the people who spread California cooking around the world. And within a year after starting her low-level job, she was running a cooking school for the restaurant and was teaching alongside Julia Child. And she became this doyenne, the queen of the food world, and wound up writing 8 cookbooks, changed her life remarkably, changed my father's life, changed my life and her whole family's lives as we became more sophisticated. We were exposed to a whole new world. And I would say this with a bit of embarrassment, but unfortunately it's true. That happened when I was about 21 years old, and since that time I don't think I've made an important decision in my life that didn't totally revolve around food or alcohol.
Oh my. Your mom sounds very, very loving.
Touching, so touching, yeah.
Well, it was very inspiring, and the conceit of the book is when she was in her 80s, she had a very severe stroke, and I realized I didn't know enough about her past and about her life, and particularly about the food that was so important to me, because she said to me, when I said to her, "Why did you love cooking so much?" And she said, "Because it gave me definition," which was not the answer I expected. And I realized that's what gave my mom such peace and comfort, is she had that definition, and I wanted to see if I could get it too. And I wanted to learn about it. So I learned to cook all her favorite foods over the course of a few years. And while I did it, and I can cook, but I was hardly a great cook by any means. I mean, I'm still not a great cook. Some of the things were really easy. Some of the things were really complicated, way beyond my pay grade. But I learned a lot of life lessons as well as food lessons from doing this.
Wow, it's so touching. The review that's actually on the book says, rare is the book that has you laughing and crying on the same page. And Stephanie Dandler is the giving credit to that. And that's exactly true. That's exactly what you've done here. So I can see why. You have a great way of writing. By the way, I just saw your picture. You look like Stallone. Anybody ever tell you that? Doesn't he look like Sylvester Stallone?
Which Stallone? Sylvester Stallone?
Sylvester, yeah.
No, nobody's ever told me that.
No, Robin, does this look like on the back of the book here?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's just
I think so,
the
a
angle.
little bit.
Maybe it's the shadows or something.
I really enjoyed.
I do identify with Rocky quite a bit, but other than that, no.
Oh, really?
Well, your book is
No.
is written in such a way that it makes the reader appreciate their parents more, and also themselves as a parent for their children, because time with each other is so important, and it's so fleeting that every moment you can get to spend with someone and share an activity with is one of the most beautiful things in the world.
Well, you put that perfectly, and I'm really happy to hear you say that, because one of the things I realized after I wrote the book, when I was talking about it, is for me the greatest value of having done all this, of having cooked for her, of having had conversations about literally everything in life up until the moment of death, is that when my mom died, and she died about a year ago, when she died, I had no regrets about my relationship with her. I could honestly say I did and said everything I would want to do with her or say to her, and she felt the same way. And it's really remarkably comforting, and I think a really good lesson to parents and children, that should be the goal. You should have no regrets. And my mother was extraordinary, and she made it kind of easy to have those conversations and be that honest with her. But I think it's a really good goal. You should have no regrets. When my mother died, I don't think she had a regret in life.
That's awesome. I love. Was this book different as a writer? Was it different for you to write because of the intensely personal aspect of it?
Yes, I had written, now this will sound funny, but I, over the years, wrote 3 books that were quite successful and quite popular, that were very personal books about traveling around the world with my cat. And I know, everybody laughed, but, you know.
Love it.
So, but they were kind of memoirs at the same time. Everyone loved them because there was a cute cat in it, but it was really the books were kind of about me. And this time it was the same sort of thing, except it became much more personal and much more emotional. And I was expecting to finish this book while my mom was still alive. The goal was to make this feast of a dinner for Wolf and Nancy Silverton and all the chefs she affected and all the people she affected, because my mom had friends when she died in her 90s. She had friends in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But she died before I could finish the dinner. It wound up being her memorial. I wound up cooking for 75 or 80 people, and it became weirdly, it was meant to celebrate her life when she was still alive, and in some ways it became even more meaningful because it was a huge celebration of her life when she was gone.
I know you have to run, but I have a quick question. Is there any one food, any one recipe you got from your mom that when you eat it, taste it, it takes you back to your childhood?
there's one in particular, and it's the simplest thing that I make in the entire book, because I told you some are really complicated, some required a great deal of alcohol for me to make them, and it's the simplest one, and the one that brings me back to being 8 years old is chocolate pudding. And I gave it to my mother. I made chocolate pudding and fed it to my mother when she was 93, the exact same way she fed it to me on a wooden spoon when I was 8. And we both completely, I knew, we didn't have to speak. I knew she was transported back to when she was 40, giving it to me as a little boy, and I was transported back to being that little boy. It was an amazingly moving moment.
So touching.
Wow, that's beautiful. I think Robin's crying.
Yeah, sorry. I can't help it.
I'm gonna deny that I almost did. Peter, thank you for being.
The book is also funny.
It is funny.
It is funny.
I know.
It's good.
I think everybody got that part, but it's hard to not be touching when you tell that story, though. Peter, I love this. Thank you so much. If for those watching the video podcast, I got the cover of the book on there because he's not in the studio. Otherwise, I would have had the camera on Peter. And I have a copy of the book. If you'd like it, call me. I'll give it to you. The rest of us have to go buy it. Before we say goodbye, Peter, do you have a website?
Holt has a website. I have a Facebook page just under me, an author page. I'm on Goodreads, so if you just type in my name on Google, you'll be sent to all sorts of places where you can send me messages or whatever.
All right, awesome. Let me give the book away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Edwina.
Edwina, you've got the book. It'll be waiting for you at the studio, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today. That was an awesome interview. I think he's gone. Probably. The publicist probably said, you guys went too long. All right, let's take a little break, and we will be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, sunshine and hot. The high 89 at the coast, 96 inland. Moonlit wind tonight. Lows generally in the 60s. Thursday, mostly sunny and hot with a high of 90 at the coast, well up into the 90s inland. Friday, sunshine, some clouds, breezy and still hot. The high 90 at the coast, 96 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lunder.
Hi, my name is Erica Olstein. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. Do you have a gout-ridden toe or bowels that move too slow, creaky knees, or how about an asthmatic wheeze? Then acupuncture is sure to please. Come visit me, your primary care physician, Erica Olstein at A Better You Healthcare. Call me at 352-615-5566. That's 352-615-5566.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 572-2510. That's 572-2510.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new truck.
Yep, we can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too.
Well, as a matter of fact, join me, Matt Gibbs from Sunrise Automotive, every Tuesday at 10 for auto repair with personal care right here on The Source.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, sunshine and hot. The high 89 at the coast, 96 inland. Moonlit wind tonight. Lows generally in the 60s. Thursday, mostly sunny and hot with a high of 90 at the coast, well up into the 90s inland. Friday, sunshine, some clouds, breezy and still hot. The high